Christmas Day, 25th of December. Let's get into the SHTF news for today.
And now, the news. Stand by. In 3, 2, 1.
And here we are with today's top stories, SHTF news, with your host, Andy, for today on the 25th of December, Christmas Day. Welcome, everybody. So lovely to have everyone here, despite it being a day full of loads of great things to do, but yet you still choose to be here live with me on the SHTF news. So thank you very much. So usual routine, just to give you the heads up, I'll talk more about this with the patrons during the week, some of the plans I've got coming in 2022 for the Ultimate Live Show. One of the things being the SHTF news segments are going to be cut up in a slightly different way. I'll be including in here as a specific topic category, biometrics, and maybe even AI, because that's becoming a bigger thing at the moment, but I need to find something to wrap that up into one kind of cyber AI type topic, and a few other little things I want to add in and a few things I think I might take away. So that's kind of the plan. So this is going to change a bit going forward, but like I say, I've got a great video or two lined up for the patrons with some of the secret plans and the secret mission plans behind the scenes. So keep your eye on that. So what we'll do then, we'll jump into the top stories and we'll see what the world's got in store for us today. And I set these tabs up several hours ago actually, but some of them are quite interesting, so I thought I might as well go over them with you. But yeah, new rules coming out for the COVID bidney when they're going on about the Omicron. And do you know what's annoying is that I was going to do a dedicated segment on Omicron, and then things got out of control because the original video I was going to do was showing all the actual numbers using my prediction tool, right? Which I was going to start bringing back to show people how the numbers don't make any sense on any scientific level at all that they're talking about. And then before I knew it, they started pushing so much propaganda and their agenda that it's very difficult to get ahead of the curve. You know, it's like so much bullshit that I'd have to unpack in all these news stories, right? Even stuff like half of colds will be COVID. It's like, no. First of all, COVID is short for coronavirus, and coronavirus is essentially the technical term for a cold. So all of colds are coronavirus, and all of coronavirus are colds. So for those that didn't know. And the other thing as well that's important to know, which I didn't open all of the windows here, but I had about 10 windows of stuff that I was going to show you, showing you all of the individual manufacturers saying that there isn't any way of testing between the variants other than genome sequencing, of which takes about 7 days each sample, with about a maximum capacity of between 48 to 72 per day. So when they start talking about hundreds of thousands of cases, 144,000 people a day, believe me, there's no way to test 144,000 people a day with Omicron, because like I say, the only way to confirm, and that's all in the language, because when I looked at the way they were saying it, it says very clearly that a PCR test cannot detect Omicron. You have to send it for genome sequencing. So everything is just, none of the numbers make up on any level at all. And I think everyone's probably already figured that out already, to be honest. So I came across an interesting thing here talking about Hyde Park Picture House archive details, 1918 to 19 flu pandemic. This is on the BBC, obviously, but it's interesting because they don't mention anywhere any of the real facts of what happened back then. Right, and I did mention this last year, but for those that don't know, more than 93%, I think the paper said in the end, the final paper, more than 93% of people who died in the Spanish flu. First of all, it didn't start in Spain. It started at a military base in America. Second of all, it wasn't a flu, it was a bacterial pneumonia. And third of all, it was nothing to do with anyone catching anything. It was based on an experimental vaccine that was put out to the soldiers as part of their military experiment with the soldiers going off to war. And that was where everything came from. That was where the bacterial pneumonia came from, was from a dodgy vaccine that they came out with. It didn't work, right? And then when they were being warned in all the other countries about, when the troops come home, they're going to be spreading disease, so we better vaccinate all of you as well. And basically, when you look at the actual scientific study done of Spanish flu, the only people who died of it were the people who were vaccinated. So it's funny how they don't tell you any of that, do they? Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. This is what I'm saying. I could spend a whole day just showing you all the evidence of what all these things really are behind the scenes, yeah, but it's just impossible because we're really in quite a severe level of menticide on the planet where I don't think logic, facts and reason and critical thinking really exists anymore. And it feels like that whole quote about, you know, a bird in a cage watching a bird fly thinks that it's an illness. Yeah, a bird sitting in a cage watching other birds fly around think that's an illness. It's feeling a bit like that more and more as we go. So yeah, that's I noticed we haven't got any SHTF news music going. Da, 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 da. So let's get that sorted out. It's way more dramatic now, isn't it? So climate change, aka solar cycles. Small army of volunteers keeping deniers off Wikipedia. Again, the stuff I could show you to unpack that and just destroy that entire thing from a scientific level. And this is what's annoying, is that science doesn't seem to exist anymore. And coming from a highly scientific background in many of my disciplines, I can't get away with not following the scientific methods, which is why there's no such thing as anything to do with deniers when you come to science, because science is just a process of seeking the more and more cleanest version of the truth that you can get to, yeah? And so you always have to assume there's other things at play. So, you know, anyway, there's no way I'm even going to read that. It's just a joke. Now, pollution and all that kind of stuff is definitely a problem, and that should be sorted out. All the plastics in the ocean, all the chemicals they're using in all the foods and that, it's nasty. All the stuff spraying in the skies, all the stuff spraying on the farmland, all the stuff injected into all the animals. That's the problem. That's the problem. Yeah, let's clean that up first. Let's stop these businesses like you get in the States recently, where you've had stuff like them just emptying hundreds of thousands of tons of you know, like lead contaminated water into drinking water, this kind of shit, right? I think that's the sort of thing that is actually a threat and actually real, but it's actually the thing that they won't talk about. It's funny, isn't it? So what's this? I've got a bunch of Twitter tabs opened up here, and they've been sitting there. Oh yes, so this is the basically, I think the Archbishop coming out saying everyone should get jabbed. The Jesus would have wanted you to. Imagine that. So an Archbishop coming out saying basically, yeah, everyone should get the old, you know what, because Jesus would want you to have done. I mean, Archbishop of Canterbury. Do you know, not this Archbishop of Canterbury, but an Archbishop of Canterbury back in the day was a very close friend of my mother's, because she worked for the church. And I used to go round to the Archbishop of Canterbury's house every day after school for a couple of hours to be babysat. Babysat, but not as a baby. So yeah, this obviously isn't the same Archbishop of Canterbury, but just so you know. Interesting. So it's funny how things are turning out. Here's one from Zuby. I like Zuby. I think he's one of the best looking sort of like red pill dudes there are, funnily enough. I don't know what it is about Zuby. It's something about his smile I find very I'm not saying I fancy him, I'm just saying I think he's a handsome dude and I think he's funny. So those who don't follow Zuby, he does some great videos. But anyway, some people are legitimately disappointed that Omicron just isn't that deadly. Disappointed. They want this charade and hysteria to continue forever because they found meaning and purpose in it. Do you know, it's funny he mentions this, and I'm not sure if he knows himself, but there's a thing called mass formation, which is all about that, where it becomes cultist. And those that are wearing the face coverings, those that are lining up around the block, 3 blocks, queue to line up for their booster, these sorts of people are sort of almost like feeling like they're part of a cult. And the more conforming that you can be, the better a cult member you are, and that's what it creates, and that's what it's designed to create. And it's like a cultist type loyalty to the commitment to the cause. And the great thing about cultist mentality, if you can initiate it on the public, is they don't question anything, and they will go to absolute crazy lengths of nastiness for the cause, yeah, for safety and things like that. But I'll tell you what was interesting when I was reading through this was looking at all of the responses to it and all the tweets of people talking about it. And it's like, this is where you got deniers of people say, and then you literally get floods of people coming in here with all the examples of where the deniers are saying, what are you talking about? It's not, no one's saying that. And there's just example after example of people just saying that, you know, I wish it was still saying that everyone should wear 6 masks and get a booster because Omicron's going to kill everyone and everything like this. And even though it's supposed to be less severe than a common cold, still recommend getting the booster and wearing a mask and social distancing and telling all your family members not to come home, not to come round. It's just, it's crazy. So anyway, that was a big old Twitter sort of spat going on between those guys. There was GE, that was. So, what else we got in here? 70%, Omicron 70% less likely to put people in hospital. And we got a bunch of memes later on. I'm sure that will shed some light on some stuff. But sore throat and headache of even chance of being COVID-19, Zoe App Scientist Ward. It's just, everything's COVID-19 anyway, isn't it? Let's face it. First of all, the PCR tests are entirely flawed, aren't they? So you're supposed to be running them at less than 27 cycles, and each cycle is double the last cycle. So when they're doing 48 cycles and 44 cycles, then you're just getting something like more than 97% false positive rate every time you test. And that was part of what I had prepared to do, a full-on sort of like coronavirus update showing you that when you look at all the original WHO data of the article of Omicron and what the actual numbers were of it and what it actually is, and it's just such nonsense. And then you see what the media are telling people it is and how they're responding to it. It's worked though, it's worked really well, because I tell you what, the number of big old queues of people queuing up for their boosters is quite impressive. So yeah, this is Right Said Fred. They've been quite vocal over the whole pandemic thing, haven't they? Mayor Lori Lightfoot, or Beetlejuice as some people call her, or Guppy, was it the other week we had? To put simply, if you have been living vaccine-free, I'm glad she's using that term, vaccine-free, that's supposed to be better than unvaccinated. Because unvaccinated is like unclean or, you know, unwashed, or, whereas vaccine-free, yeah, is like poison-free or dirt-free, or, yeah. So to put it simply, if you've been living vaccine-free, your time is up, rubber duck. If you wish to live life as with the ease to do the things you love, you must be vaccity-pooed. This health order may pose an inconvenience to the unvaccinated. She means vaccine-free. And in fact, it is inconvenient by design. Yes, I think we all figured that out. So isn't she lovely? But I love that. She seems nice. Yeah. Yeah. Just like people feeling like, you know, these other crazy lunatics around the planet are quite nice, aren't there? People like Dan Andrews and Jacinda Ardern, and just amazing. So what we got here, Drakeford is now asking that people living in Wales go to bed before 9 o'clock on Christmas Eve. Yeah, this is the levels we've got to. This is what it leads to, you see. The minute you give in to a tyranny once, yeah, it's a little bit like negotiating with terrorists, isn't it? Never negotiate with terrorists, because you know what happens, they just keep coming back, don't they, right? And this is it, and this is a perfect example of that. Here we go, now they're getting to tell you what time you go to bed. Little girls and boys and those in between. You little naughty girls and boys, you go to bed when I say so, yeah? This is the level of ego that has manifested itself in these quote-unquote wannabe leaders, yeah? Dictators, sorry. I mean, if anyone thinks that that's an acceptable, it's just a little bit like in Australia and in New Zealand when they're coming out telling people not to talk to their neighbours because it's not the right time to be talking to people right now because you'll spread it. No, it's just you don't want everyone finding out all the truth about what's really been going on behind the scenes for people that have got eyes to see and ears to hear. That's the real problem. That's why they don't want the vaccine-free and the vaccinated to be together at Christmas, is because what's going to happen? What's going to happen is that people sitting around the table eating, yeah, the people who, you know, have read the pamphlet inside the actual vaccine certificate, though, because I said to you the other week, didn't I, about basically if someone asked me if they've if you're vaccinated or not. It's just a simple case of there's two types of people: the people that read the label before they take medication, the people that don't read the label. I read the label. Yeah, that's all. It's only two types of people. But the point is that once you're sitting around a table with all these people, they know that there are no arguments that can be... there is nothing that somebody who's taken the decision to not undergo the experimental therapy, there's nothing that can be debunked for them. Yeah? So when they get around a table, that person is going to be able to be pulling out so much evidence and so much science and data, whereas the people that are just resorting to the usual levels of name calling and all the other stuff I see, this is why I'm looking at some of these things, it's all just name calling. All the people that are saying, oh, you COVID idiots, why don't you just go and get your jab and shut up? What, are you too scared or something? You scaredy cat, you're scared of a needle, yeah? This is all I'm saying. Whereas the people that are trying to defend themselves are saying, well, no, it's like, my body, my choice. Other people are saying, I'll wait until the data's come out to see how it is. I'll wait until they release the reaction data, which they haven't done yet. They don't seem anyone to see the data for all the study. So a lot of people are saying, I want to wait until that's that. And they're just showing scientific data to back up their point. But the other side don't seem to have anything more than just slander and aggression. It's quite fascinating to see play out, and it should be evident to anyone to see which side is on the side of the science and which side is just on the side of the menticide, the brainwashing, the not being able to think for themselves, the just repeating talking points they've heard on the mainstream. It's very sad to see. It's very worrying. It's very worrying. But I do wonder if probably quite a large percentage of what you see on particularly Twitter, I'd say about maybe 60 to 70% of the activity is nothing more than AI bot activity. Yeah, just literally AI bots with talking points, talking to each other and flooding the stuff with misinformation to stop people finding out the truth. That's basically how it rolls, right? So anyway, that's kind of why I was giving you a heads up on that kind of stuff, because it's important to be aware of, because it's like even some of the big YouTube channels are showing you studies that have been fudged on purpose to mislead people. And you find out that people have been offered quite a lot of money to do these videos for the big pharma companies. So they really are getting into the roots of everything. With all the money they've been given by the governments to do stuff, they're just using that money to influence all the influencers and all the mainstream and all the newspapers and all the magazines and all the radio shows and all. You've seen the stuff sponsored by Pfizer, right? You've seen those videos of one after another, every single news station sponsored by Pfizer's. And here's a little secret. I spent some time in publishing industry as a sales manager for a newspaper, quite a big newspaper chain locally. And what was interesting is that what I learned there is that if you're an advertiser in the newspaper, let's say you got a newspaper, you do like a half-page advert. If you do an advert as a business, then it means, like, as part of the contract, that newspaper organisation isn't allowed to run a negative news story on an advertiser. So if you wonder why in every newspaper you pick up, you'll see the same businesses advertising in every single newspaper, it's because that's how they ensure that a bad news story is never run on them. It's part of the contract. If you're an advertiser, it doesn't matter if you're paying $300 for a bit of lineage or you're paying $20,000 for a full-page advert in the newspaper. Just bear that in mind. If you're an advertiser, they do that on purpose because contractually it means that that publisher cannot write a bad story about you. So check that out. Just so you know. So that's how they get around it, right? As well as obviously lobbying and stuff. So I sort of like talking of things like climate change. I've seen so many of these things now. It's so counterintuitive, counterproductive. It goes to show that that's not the real reason. Leaked emails show Florida's biggest utility drafting anti-solar bill. So do you know where like you get solar panels put on your roof and you can get that deal where the electric company will sort of basically pay you per sort of watt hour energy that you produce with your own solar panels. If you're not using that energy yourself in your own home, it gets fed into the main grid and it gets metered, and they can basically calculate how much you've produced for the grid. And so although you might not be using that energy that you're generating from your solar panels yourself, it means that other people in your neighborhood or the grid as a whole can use that effectively, and that's the idea of it. And in the UK, we've had like almost like a subsidised system running for a few years, and it keeps getting progressively less and less as the years go on. But it is designed to give you a return on that investment, so that that gets fed into the grid. And basically, what Florida is saying, they're going to stop doing that, and it basically turns out it was a big briefcase full of money from the electric company for the lobbyists. That's usually the way it does, isn't it? They just basically donated $3 million to say, can you just like add a new law in to make it so that you don't have to give them any money for the electricity they generate, and therefore. And again, they even mentioned in this email about the fact that the main purpose of it is just because they want to maintain their sort of full monopoly on energy production, right? And so one minute they're talking about climate change and we need to sort of, reduce our carbon footprint. The next minute, they're removing the incentive for us to do it in one of the best ways we can, which is to be generating our own electricity on our own properties. So makes you wonder what the real motivations are on all these things. And anyways, a million other things, but we don't want to be worrying about that today because it's Christmas Day. So let's get into the disaster map so we can assure everybody that there's not really too much that's going to kill us all today, apart from drunk drivers on the road. So don't drink and drive, and do watch out if you are on the roads today, especially if you're somewhere icy, cold, rainy, low visibility, low light conditions, potentially drunk drivers on the road. Just take extra care tonight, everybody, won't you, if you are out and about. So what should we do next then? Disaster maps. Let's get into that and see what Guam in the world of disasters. And I have seen quite a few reports of some more earthquakey activity going on. However, just to put you at ease, I'm feeling somewhat confident now to sort of officially say listen to him to officially say that I think LaPalma is something I can take off our list of ongoing watch items, which obviously I've been reporting on several occasions, and some specific breaking news stories as well on the Ultimate Live Show specific channel here, which for those that have just joined us, this is basically what we're talking about. On here we've got these breaking news, SHTF news. That's only available on the Ultimate Live Show channel now. So if you go to ultimatelive.show.com, you'll find it. But yeah, so that's the idea. And I talk about things like LaPalma, but now, yeah, totally settled down, look. And we'll get into a bit more of that later on. But there's a couple of wildfires, winter storms, but it's not like we've got anything new that's really sort of shining up on the radar to me anyway. So looking like we're all right on that front. Earthquakes have started reducing as well. This was actually, it says 38 earthquakes, 2.5 magnitude and above over the last 24 hours. Now that's been up at about 69, 71, I think, last towards the beginning of this week. Tuesday. I was tempted to bring a breaking news then, actually, because I thought this could be something coming with the way the sun was rocking up and ticking up. But it did seem to calm down. We're back down to 38 quakes, so I think we're hopefully going to have a bit of peace in terms of seismicity over the next week or so. So here's just a quick report on the LaPalma here. I'll give it a quick refresh so we can get the latest. Yeah, whatever. So 3 quakes magnitude 2 or above, 9 quakes below magnitude. Yeah, and they're not even listing anything above that now. So totally different scene. And look at this, you just got a scattering of let's do that again. Just got a splattering of small yellow quakes. The yellow ones are like magnitude less than 1 or between 1 and 2 magnitudes, so they're tiny little things, look. And this used to be just littered with it all over the place, and real dense clumps of them. So that's totally dissipating now, so that's great to see. I'm glad everybody at LaPalma is going to be able to start to feel. You'll see here as well, this is yellow. That was orange before, and then it was red before that. So yeah, we're looking good for that. So let's hope everybody can start getting their lives back together there on LaPalma, particularly now over Christmas time. It would be lovely for them to have a little bit of a break from it all, a little bit of a glimmer of hope as well on the horizon, that they can start getting their lives back together, start figuring out how to get back to the island, start rebuilding their homes. Imagine all that. I've seen so much destruction from the lava and the new tongues of lava that kept spooling off different directions and just taking out so many little villages and factories and distribution warehouses. Again, it's that whole infrastructure that's been taken out. So let's hope that they can get themselves back on their feet as quick as possible. So that's about it for the disaster map side of stuff. So we'll have a look at the space weather, which has been a little bit more active and interesting this week, hasn't it, for those that have been following. So on the solar ham here, and it's actually calmed down again. We had this big peak, and this was another thing I was going to bring to you, but it got really busy this week with Christmas and everything. But if we look on the sunspots summary, we did indeed have a couple that went, couple of small little M-class flares, and if this one went beta gamma, there's a couple that went beta gamma delta that did actually flare up. But you can see this one here, the only one that's got any magnetic mixing going on that could be any threat is actually right over on the eastern limb here anyway, on the way round and on its way out, so that's not going to cause us any problem. But it was quite interesting to see just how littered the sun was with these sunspots and stuff, and this is a good indication of the polarity of the sun as well. For those that don't know, when you see these sunspots on the northern equatorial regions and the southern equatorial regions like that, it means you're in the new solar cycle. When they're banded in the middle along the equatorial regions, then and so now we're seeing more of this sort of patterning going on. I think we're quite well set into the new cycle, solar cycle 27, is it? What is the solar cycle? Does it say here anywhere? I think it's 27, but let me know if I'm wrong in the chat. But yeah, anyway, so that's about it really. It was looking like it was going to get pretty tricky, but as it turns out, it's sort of calming down. But we're going to see what's coming back round the other side of the sun there. There was a picture there caught of Santa, look, with the reindeer, so that was a lucky shot to get him there, wasn't it? Oh dear. But yeah, so I was a little bit concerned about that. I was watching that daily, but now we're down to only about 15% chance of an M flare, look. And we've only got this 2907 that's red, which is the only one that's got beta gamma mixing, not beta gamma delta. So, and it's on the way off the side of the limb anyway, so it's not going to cause us any problem. So, so that's about it for the space weather. Let's see what's next. Cyberspace. See what going with a hacking and ting. See what going on with a hacking and ting. So, Sonic Wall, just to see what the old... it looks like similarly active to on a normal business week, to be honest. It's quite interesting for a Saturday. About 1.6 billion attacks on the UK is the top target, as usual. And as usual, the top attack origin being from the United States and Austria and France in that order. And looks like India's getting a bit hit today, more than normal as well. But it doesn't look like there's anything too dramatic going on. And of course, most people should be chilling out with their friends and family, not trying to take down people's servers and websites and stuff. So that's your... let's have a quick look, another quick refresh on the Downdetector, because I'll tell you what Christmas Day always brings is usually stuff like Xbox Live servers completely being destroyed. When everybody unwraps their Xbox, everybody unwraps their PlayStation for the first time. They plug it in, it fires up, they get the network set up, and what happens? It has to sit there downloading all sorts of updates, all sorts of software, all sorts of games on the internet, and everyone's doing that at the same time on the same day, or all the way around the world. It just absolutely kills these servers to try and obviously serve all of these different files to so many different people at once. But it's looking like it's standing up quite well, because and again, Oculus, I would expect to see a bit of a peak there again. My son has got an Oculus, our son Xavier, he's got an Oculus VR headset. And again, I bet there's a lot of people getting their VR headsets today, opening them up for Christmas, jumping online going, oh, it's taking forever, I just want to play the game. So it's important that the big tech companies do everything they can at Christmas time. They have all sorts of contingencies in place. They put all sorts of extra data center load balancing systems in place as well to handle the extra traffic. So looks like they've done all right this time round. Couple of little blips, but nothing too epic. And finishing up then, let's see if it's all collapsed already, or whether we've still got a market to speak of. I've only really got crypto sitting up here actually, because there wasn't much going on. But of course, it's all pretty quiet this time around Christmas time. Bitcoin's holding steady at 50. It's just about broken past that big old area of resistance there, the 50,000 mark. Once it's broken through, it should sit there for a while. Hopefully, it will hold its price for a bit, go horizontal. and confirm and firm up its position before it starts to move higher. And again, Ethereum's broken past that $4,000 mark as well. So it looks like it's on the way back up. I've not seen any epically bad news coming out for cryptos. Neither have I seen any particularly good news. So it's just holding steady. And like I say, when people start getting back to work, when people start getting back off for the season holidays, that's when you'll see things picking up quite dramatically, where people start putting their money out of cold storage straight back into the cryptos and start playing around again. And so yeah, that's basically, other than that, it's looking reasonably all right. And that is the SHTF news, at least this part of it. We may do another one a bit later on as the night goes on and the day goes on, depending on where you are in the world. But that's been your SHTF news. We host Andy's.